everyone, my name is TurtleBoi, and I looked at this script for a total of 2 minutes, trying to come up with an intro for not just this video, but my channel before giving up entirely, which sums up the kind of content you'll see on here perfectly. If you had asked me a year ago what my favorite YouTube Red series is, I would have told you Scare PewDiePie. I mean, it's got Felix, it's got him doing a bunch of horror game scenarios, it's got a bunch of YouTube crossovers, it's got MatPat being bodied by an animatronic. True masterpiece indeed. Plus, it's the only one I'd seen. However, all that changed a few months ago when I watched the one and only Joey Graceffa's Escape the Night. And ladies and gentlemen, that is when things changed for the better. 1 week and many tears shed later, I had watched the entire show and loved it. I soon found myself needing more content for the show, as it seemed we weren't getting season 5 for a while, so I have taken it upon myself to create my own. Quick side note, I love rankings. Any kind of rankings. Tier lists, top 10s, icebergs, top 5 on MySpace, I'm here for it all. So why not combine these two things into one video that people will surely argue with in the comments? So today, I'll be ranking each of the Escape the Night seasons. I don't have anything in particular I'm ranking each of the seasons on, just bringing up whatever comes to mind. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, and the subpar. We'll be talking about it all. Just take all of what I'm saying with the teeniest pinch of salt. You're hearing the opinions of someone whose music taste is basically just listening to the video called Songs Playing in Another Room Chill Mix. With all that mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's get into the list with number 4.
I don't think he knows what he's doing. I don't think...
Well, why are we following a dumb bitch?
Hey, season 4 is number 4. That's fun. Anyway, I hate this season. Season 4 of Escape the Night is truly an anomaly. There are times when I love it, and times where I wish nothing more for than it to burn in a ditch. But through and through, this season is an overall disappointment. When I first watched season 4, I was actually pretty pleased with it, but that's because of a very stupid reason on my part. I had watched the seasons out of order. The only Escape the Night season I had watched previous to this was season 3, which I adored, but I didn't have the other two to compare it to, and now that I do, wow, season 4 is such a mess. Let me go through all the reasons I hate season 4. Number 1, Bretman should not have been there. I think Brett is fine, but it's an all-star season. The cast should have been made up of only those from the previous seasons. The fact that he takes up a survivor spot makes it even more egregious. Number 2, we should have had Calliope as our helper instead of Mortimer. Calliope is a way better support character than Mortimer, and we should have had her there instead, plain and simple. Mortimer does basically nothing in this season, and does so little that he is killed off halfway through the season, and there is pretty much no difference. My guy spends half the season as decor. Number 3, Joey's plan failed so miserably that it makes the entire season upsetting to watch. To see the best characters die again when they could have been saved and given a second chance at life makes the season not enjoyable and just makes you mad. Number 4, Colleen's return. This might be my bias talking because I am not the biggest Colleen fan, but Colleen coming back was such BS. Literally everyone said, we should bring back Tana, and Joey basically said, nah. Colleen dying was sad, but they should have left it at her dying after coming to terms with Joey and forgiving him. And yes, Tana had somewhere else to be at this time, so she couldn't have returned, but like, don't include clips of every single person still left saying, Tana, if you're just gonna do something else. That's why the revival in season 3 also works so well. The person they actually wanted back came back. Number 5, Joey's interactions with Ro. First off, in episode 5, when Joey gets pissed at Ro for voting him into the challenge, Ro 100% felt that Joey could go into that challenge and survive because she had such faith in him. And he had the nerve to get mad at her over that? It was a compliment, you asshat! And the obvious one, episode 9. I understand that Ro was the only one in the group who didn't go into a challenge, but the way that Joey phrases the entire argument is so stupid. That Ro needs to prove herself. Everyone in this damn season has proven themselves except you, Joey, because everyone in this season other than Bretman has died for you. No one has anything to prove except you. If anything, you have the most to prove because you're the one who caused all this shit. Number 6, the real world events surrounding this season. I want to try my best to keep the drama that happened off set during this season out of my overall review, but it is really hard to see this season in a positive light considering most of the people who worked on it can't even do that. It's sad, but watching this season after hearing about everything that went down just puts a bad taste in my mouth. But it's not all bad. Okay, it's mostly bad, but there are a few things I like. The main thing being the first 10 minutes. I would argue that the first 10 minutes of Escape the Night Season 4 changed lives. Seeing the members of all the previous seasons emerge from their glass chambers shot by shot is one of the best things to come out of this series. After watching each of them die and going literal years without seeing them in the show, having them return is a moment to cheer about, or I guess in some cases groan about. Either way, I'm sure if I actually watched the seasons in order, this moment would have brought me to full-on ugly tears. Even after that, the scene continues to shine. Everyone reacting to seeing one another as well as Joey is super well done. The bitterness, the confusion, the shock of seeing who else is bitch killed. This is my multiverse of madness. I think my favorite of the moments was Daystorm seeing Alex again, hitting us with that.
Okay, round 2.
After watching that scene again with the context of season 2, aka how you're supposed to watch, goosebumps. It was so good to see them again. Backing up even before we enter the museum, seeing Matt and Nikita again, now as official members of the Society Against Evil, was also really cool. I'm really glad they had more involvement in this season since it was something we had never seen from the previous survivors, which I'm still mad about. Why didn't we get to see Tyler and Andrea in this season? I'll never get over that. I ad-libbed that, but it's so true. Along with that, seeing all the artifacts from the previous seasons make a return and be, useful again, really helped in tying everything together to this moment. And of course, we can't talk about the first 10 minutes of the season without mentioning the punch. That punch changed me as a person. I will never be the same. Going right back into doing whatever it takes to protect his friends is very much like Alex, and whoever told him to do this needs a raise. What can I say? I'm an Alex stan through and through. Speaking of Alex, he and Ro make this season watchable for me. Am I biased because they're my 2 favorite characters? Probably. Yes, definitely, I am biased. But their friendship is my favorite one in the entire show. Another thing I enjoyed was the setting and backstory. The fact that this is a place where the dead are displayed explains why everyone who's died already is here. The jar of souls and lack of room for why not everyone was here was a nice touch as well. I also love the idea of the location not having one set time theme, but rather traveling from time to time and having the monsters fit these themes. Although the main part of the building has some major season 1 vibes going, and not in a good way. And by that I mean the entire building has a serious lack of color. Why is everything so brown? And I'd also like to bring up, season 4 seems to be lacking everywhere except for its soundtrack. These songs go hard, and I think part of the reason for this is the constant change in setting. Genres are really able to blend well with each other, with Ride to Hell, Fallen Hero, and Lost in the Maze being my favorite tracks this time around. Lost in the Maze especially. Listening to that track makes me feel like I'm in a Zelda dungeon, and I am here for it. As for emotional impact, this season was extremely lacking compared to the previous 2. That was until we got to episodes 8 and 9 because, oh my god, these killed me. Less because I was sad and more because I was pissed. Season 4 did the exact same thing as season 3 for me, and that was kill my 2 favorite characters back to back. I was foolish to think that my 3 favorites from the previous season showed up and that one of them would make it out alive. Anyway, these 2 deaths made me so mad, and both are because Joey had to be a bitch. I already talked about his toxic ass interaction with Ro, so let's touch on Alex's death for a second. The fact that Joey had the gall to walk back into that room and say, there was nothing we could do to help. I'm throwing hands. I'm throwing hands just like the boy you just got killed. This death is genuinely so heartbreaking because of all the shit Alex went through, not just this season, but in season 2 as well, which we'll get to eventually. He was easily the most deserving person there to survive, and he didn't. Now that's some bullshit. But the real tearjerker of his death is absolutely his confession before he's shot. I could honestly make a whole video about how Alex is easily the character most deserving of survival based on all he's sacrificed, all he's done to help, and all he's been through. And to be honest, I probably will. In conclusion, season 4 is mid at best, and I forget about its existence all the time. And honestly, I'm okay with forgetting about it.
She's toward dying.
Being the first season in the series, the show had to have somewhere to start from. And that starting place isn't always the best. Let me go through my reasons. Number 1, the environment the characters are in is repetitive and boring. Unlike in the 2 latest seasons, the entire season takes place in one house. Now you might be yelling at your screen, But Turtle, Season 2 is also in one house. And yes, while that's true, each episode's new room in Season 2 feels like you're stepping into a new house. The rooms are different from one another, and it feels like you're walking into a different era or location in time. It doesn't feel like the same house because of it. This is not the case with Season 1. Every time a new room is entered, I get a serious case of deja vu. Every place we go seems bland, excluding the one time they leave the house to go to the carnival. And as I mentioned briefly when discussing Season 4, I think this is because of the serious lack of diversity in terms of color. Every room in this house is a bland brown or white color. And I do realize that part of this is because of the time period chosen for this season, but that's not gonna stop me from disliking it. I know they had color back then, okay? At least I think I did. I wasn't there. Number 2, the cast is easily the most forgettable. I feel like in terms of overall cast, Season 1's is by far the weakest. The cast isn't bad, but they fade into the background compared to the others we've gotten afterwards. I'll be honest, when I'm trying to recall the Season 1 characters, I struggle every time, and I usually always forget someone when I'm making a list. Number 3, the monsters are boring. The main thread of this season is just a dude. And while yes, there are some fanciful creatures in this season, I think that the important difference here is how often we see them. Most of the time when we see a monster in this season, it's either there to give exposition or just stand there. In the following seasons, most of the monsters are imposing and scary because the cast is constantly getting chased by them. Compared to harpies, vampires, Spider-Woman, and pretty much every monster in Season 3, it doesn't really compare. Also, random to bring up, but there's something that's always bugged me about this season, and that's the monster in Episode 2. It is only brought up in the intro in a flashback, and then we never see it again. What was the point of even having a monster in that episode? Number 4, the puzzle-solving segments feel like they go on for way too long. Now, this is kind of true for every season. However, usually the puzzle segments end and we move on to something new right when it feels like they go on a bit too long. But in Season 1, I just feel like falling asleep as soon as the puzzles start. Even some of the challenges are just so hard to sit through because I'm not invested. This once again might be because I don't find the cast of this season very interesting, but either way, when the puzzles start, it might as well be nap time. Number 5, most of the deaths are average at best. Part of what makes Escape the Night so memorable are the character deaths. How intense they are, how sometimes over the top and overly gruesome they are, and how they hit you in the feels. When it comes to the most iconic deaths, each season usually has one that stands above the rest in terms of bizarrety or gruesomeness, and this makes the death more memorable. However, in most seasons, just because one death hits you extra hard doesn't mean none of the others aren't good too. Except for Season 1. In Season 1, the most memorable death is easily Justine's, and for good reason. The manner of her death combined with her acting, the other guest's reaction, how she's forced into the coffin, it's all very hard to watch. However, outside of one other death, which I'll get to later, none of the other deaths hit you with that much emotional impact, if at all. But this might not be the case for some of you watching. I think part of the reason I feel this way is because I don't really care very much about most of the Season 1 cast. Especially considering that one of the characters I really liked got the funniest death in the entire series. But not all the deaths in the season are bad. One of them was actually my favorite part of this season. Hey, that sounds like a transition! All Out War was by far my favorite episode of this season. I love the character interactions, the conflict, Lele and Ava simping over Colin was great, Ollie yelling at Lele and Ava simping over Colin was great. The episode as a whole is just so good. And in a bittersweet way, the best part of this episode is Tim's death. I care for Tim very much. He is my favorite character from the first season, and one of my favorite characters overall. I love his silly antics, how he hits on literally every single girl in the show. He's the main reason I go back to watch this season. So you would assume his death would be the worst part of the season for me, but that is very much not the case. This scene has a literal physical impact on me every time I watch it. Even though I always know the outcome, I get knots in my stomach watching the tension rise and fall each time Tim or Ava picks up the gun. The lack of music in this scene, as well as the dull, almost ominous atmosphere, really sets the tone for the scene perfectly. The both of them also acted through the scene phenomenally. Every time either of them speaks, you can feel the fear in their voices. Every time one of them picks up the gun, they're either shaking with fear or trying to calm down. I also love the choice to not have us see Tim shoot himself, but rather just hear it and see Ava's reaction. In a way, I think that hits harder than if we had seen it for ourselves. Okay, I'm gonna be real honest with y'all. I struggled to think of the other things I liked in this season. For a very long time, the placement of seasons 1 and 4 were flipped on this list, and that was because season 1 lacked a ton of stuff that I loved. But even though there was not a ton of stuff I love about this season, there are quite a few things I like or that I'm just neutral about, versus season 4, which has a few things I love and the rest I hated. So this is where they ended up. Thanks, season 1. You might not be the best, but you were definitely the start of something great.
Can you believe that? I didn't even know those witches' names. They should wear name tags, because I didn't know which witch is which.
Ah, yes, the opinion no one saw coming. I think I'm one of the only people out there who doesn't have season 3 at the top of their list. Although for a good while, it was without a doubt my favorite. But then again, it was the first one I watched, so... First, let's go over the negatives. Okay, now that that's done. Jokes aside, there are very few things I dislike about season 3, if anything at all. I genuinely don't think there are any. I mean, this season has a shit ton of drama, and I don't even think that's a bad thing. The character interactions, good or bad, keep you invested more than ever before surrounding who will survive. Season 3 has a lot of things going for it that have made it the absolutely iconic season that it is today. So iconic that when I thought about getting into the show, I thought that this was the only season, because of how much I heard about it and how little I heard about the other ones. Number 1, the budget increase. One of the first things most people say when we start season 3, besides why does Joey look like Fred from Scooby-Doo, is wow, the budget skyrocketed. The budget isn't reported anywhere online, and yet we can all definitely tell. This is the season that easily has the most extras, most variety in scenery and locations, most props, and more visual effects. And all these increases definitely increase your overall immersion. Number 2, the diverse setting. Season 3 was the first season to not take place in just one house, but instead an entire small town. Because of this, the setting never gets boring. New buildings are constantly getting discovered, all of which are unique and fun. Number 3, the new cast of creatures. This season has the one and only Benjamin. How could you not love it? But aside from him, all the monsters get a serious boost in this season. One of the reasons for that being their constant presence. The monsters are constantly chasing the rest of the cast down in every episode, which makes them so much scarier. They all feel like something pulled right out of a horror movie, with really only the first and last monster being just a human. And even they are psychotic enough to feel right out of a work of insane fiction. I also think the fact that we get a backstory about each of these monsters, all of which ties them back to the Carnival Master, helps the world building even more. This was also done in season 1, but I think it works better here because of how much of a powerful force the Carnival Master is made out to be. In season 1, it just seems like Arthur had a bunch of other people working beneath him. In this season, the Carnival Master does everything himself. Number 4, its incredible cast. I think it's pretty universally agreed upon that season 3 has the best cast. Aside from the 3 main standouts, the remainder of the cast works so well with one another. All of them are full of such personality and fun, which helps in keeping the season entertaining all the way through. JC is smart and helpful, Roy is full of energy and always wants to feel useful, Tila is there, Manny is just Manny. I love Manny to bits. Nikita's sassy, sometimes obnoxious attitude will either keep you loving her all the way through or yelling at your screen to have her shut up. Or maybe both. That's definitely how it was for me. And then, of course, we have Ro, Safia, and MatPat, the fan favorites of not just this season, but of the show as a whole. Ro's constant, happy, carefree, and wholesome outlook on every possible scenario is charming and sweet. Every time she's on screen, she always fills everyone around her and those watching with hope and smiles. Safia, I love her so much. She is so incredibly smart, helpful, understanding, sweet, kind, and robbed. She was so robbed. I will never forgive them for that. She is easily one of the most useful guests in the whole show, which helps in keeping her one of the most loved characters of all time. That and her interactions with Ro and Matt. Speaking of which, MatPat, the most loved character in the whole damn show. Always at the front for solving puzzles, always conveying so much emotion, just so great in every way. You don't need me to tell you why MatPat is great. We just all know it. That man deserved to come back.
Hey, so editing Turtle here. I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I knew if I didn't, I was gonna get heat in the comments, so here I am. Yeah, so I forgot to bring up Colleen. Nothing against her, I just genuinely forgot, so that's my bad. Colleen is an icon this season and always flames Joey for being a terrible friend, and we love her for it.
Number 5, it's great soundtrack. I listened to Season 3's soundtrack for the first time yesterday, and I regret not doing so sooner. It's a fantastic blend of suspenseful, fun, psychotic, and emotional. It's definitely the best soundtrack overall in comparison to the other 3. My personal favorites were The Clowns Here Kill, The Demon's Lament, and Swirling Away, with Swirling Away definitely at the top for me. If I had to recommend a song from the entire season, it would be Swirling Away. The circus theme mixed with the heavy bass and techno elements and the constant increase in tempo was just mwah! So good. They really did give the best episode the best song, huh? Number 6, it's iconic deaths. Season 3 has the most terrible deaths, and by that I mean they are so painstakingly hard to watch that they are actually amazing. This season has what is most commonly considered the saddest and most iconic death in the franchise. Those, of course, being Rose and Colleen's. And they both absolutely deserve those titles. Rose's painful struggle to try and complete the witch's challenge is so sad to watch, and her final interaction with Mad is something that has made every person I've watched this show with at least tear up and made me full-on sob. And for Colleen's, you straight up cannot bring up Season 3 without talking about this death. Colleen does a phenomenal job in this scene when it comes to conveying her emotion. It is so genuinely heart-wrenching hearing her screams, literally seeing everyone push her into the maiden, and then watching their faces fall as they hear her pain. It's a scene that really sticks with you for a long time after watching and just makes you feel uncomfortable. Number 7, its ending. I didn't touch too much upon the endings of the previous seasons because of the lack of emotional impact they had on me. Season 1's ending is perfectly fine, and Season 4's ending, well, is Season 4. The conclusion for this season, though, just hits me in the heart every time I watch it. Watching Morning Break as the 3 characters we have left exit the town, each of them talking about missing their best friends, the somber, almost melancholy feeling left behind, Matt and Nikita walking through that curtain door, the Season 4 tease, how the music carries into the credits, all of it is so well done. Each episode of this season is also just such a joy to watch. Minus episode 9, and never gets boring. The challenges are entertaining as well as the puzzles, and the fantastic cast always keeps the laughs coming even when the situation is dire. Long story short, Season 3 is objectively the best season of Escape the Night in terms of production value and overall quality. But, with all of that being said...
We did it. I don't think anyone's gonna believe that I defeated a sorceress.
The love I feel in my heart for Season 2 of Escape the Night is only outmatched by a few other pieces of media. I cannot describe to you enough how much I love this season and why. And you might be wondering, if Season 3 is objectively the best season, then why is Season 2 number 1? The answer to that being my extremely biased emotional attachment. Over the course of just a few months, I have grown so attached to this house, this story, these threats, the music, this cast and their unfortunate endings, their interactions, everything. Every single thing about Season 2 makes me smile. I love the way that the entire season takes place in just one house, and yet it feels like a million different worlds at the same time. Each and every room and every setting holds a different set of feelings. How the rooms change in between episodes so that the feeling they give you can change in such a short amount of time. How the backyard can be a place of a literal war and a fanciful wonderland. How a baker's kitchen can be a place of seemingly pure bliss during the day and at night makes your stomach churn. How an enchanted ballroom can be filled with mystery and desire at the start of the season and transform to a corrupted version of what it once was at the end. How one change in lighting can turn the main hallway from a place of excitement with friends to something right out of a horror RPG. I love how every gem earned in a challenge in this season combines at the very end to one grand crown that would be seen with utter beauty if it wasn't for all the people who died to have it be made. How the sorceress is barely ever seen until the very end of the season, yet her presence is always felt in the voting room because of her portrait. How the book containing the plot is found with the vampires, further showing that everyone in the house was in on the plan from the start when it came to killing everyone off. How the sorceress almost wins because she's tricked everyone invited to killing each other for her own selfish gain. How she still has part of her victory when she kills Joey at the very end in a surprise twist. I love how many helpers we get this season, even if they're around for just an episode. Allison is great, and her sacrifice was so sweet. Samson is a sweet little man who deserves everything. Pepito is Pepito. I don't think he counts as a helper, I just wanted to bring him up. And Jetpack Girl is the most iconic side character to date. I love how well the music in this season encapsulates the Victorian area and each of the unique worlds within it. When it comes to the season 2 soundtrack, I often find myself on Spotify wanting to listen to just one song, and then end up listening to the whole thing. How often? I just did it while writing this section of the script. Each of the previous seasons have an overarching feel or time period, and yes, season 2 has this as well, but to me, it's much more unique. Each episode touches upon a certain aspect of this era of time or of history, and all the legends that were told back then. And the music does a great job reflecting each of them. While listening to each of the soundtracks on Spotify, I made sure to like the ones I wanted to talk about the most in this video, and I found myself having to restrain from liking the majority of Season 2's tracks. I love how Automaton Woman has subtle elements of techno that give it the literal feeling of early technology, how it can be mysterious and unpredictable, but how the goal for it is to be a thing of beauty, and how it rises through the song, becoming more and more intense. I love that Going to War can be used as both a somber song of remembrance with its intro and a call to action with its steady build and faster notes. I adore its constant drum beat, tying it all together. I love how Tangled Web sounds almost Amazonian and foreign in comparison to the rest of the soundtrack. Its subtle flute and string notes give it a seductive undertone, but then fades away to show its true intention. I think it's cool that Gingerbread Woman has the same theme as Candy Lore, but it's more mellow and sweet, only building at the last second once it's already too late. And above all else, I love every damn thing about Vampire Ball. There is a reason that song was my #1 most listened to on Spotify for like a month. The beautiful violin at the start accompanied by the piano, which builds into a waltz before the horns come in, and then the grand crescendo before falling back into the same mellow waltz as before, but with hints of the horns to keep you feeling like something's not right. It is such a gorgeous song. Definitely my favorite of the show. And of course, I love this cast. Although Season 3's cast has a few standout members of its lineup and the rest are also good, I think all of Season 2's cast is fantastic all the way around, especially when it comes to their connections to one another. Their fun banter while trying to solve puzzles and understand the situation they're in, especially in Episode 1, really makes this season a treat to watch. Some of my favorite moments from this season are the iconic cast interactions. Scoop and Check is a damn classic, the dancing scene in Episode 6, all of Episode 5. Even if I don't like a certain character themselves, their connections with the other and better cast members still make me smile. Like Gabby asking Tyler if he's single, or Joey giving Lauren a high five. I hate Gabby and I hate Joey, but put them in sweet situations with two of the best people in the season, and it's golden. Again, outside of Gabby and Joey, this cast is fantastic. Jesse, Daystorm, and Liza are great. Tana is really great. I love Lauren. I love Andrea. I really, really love Tyler. And above all else, I adore Alex a lot. I'll try not to ramble about Alex because he deserves his own video 100%, but he really is such a great character. His enthusiasm and protective nature right from the start is such a treat, and he is constantly determined, smart, and resilient. The scene where Lauren doesn't return from her challenge and he starts crying and demanding answers from Daystorm always hits me right in my feels. The way he votes himself into the first challenge and asks the others to do the same, and then continues to volunteer himself for future challenges if it will ensure the safety of his friends, is everything. Guys, he's the best. Full video on Alex coming eventually. I love the deaths in this season. Love-hate. Although not all of them are super emotional, I do think that they are all super well done. The stands out for me personally being Lauren's, Tana's, Gabby's, and Alex's. Lawrence is just so damn sad given Alex's reaction, and also I am a huge Lawrence stan. The unexpectedness of Tana's death and her "what did I do?" The over-gruesomeness of Gabby's death and her heart literally being pulled from her chest is a death I don't think people talk about enough, and Alex's. All he went through, and he just went out like a king, accepting his fate. I love the intro for this season. Watching that first tarot card hit the screen with that music cue will always give me goosebumps. The way each card transforms from good to bad and flies across the screen one by one. I don't know why they only did that for this season, because it's so incredibly well made and beautiful. And above all that, we didn't even mention Tylex yet. I could honestly talk about this season all day. I have things to say about every single part of it. The amount of joy it and its cast has brought me over these past few months is unprecedented, and I am so grateful for its existence. Season 2, you the GOAT. And with all that being said, that was my ranking of all the Escape the Night seasons. If you disagree with me, cool. Let me know about it in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion. Just keep things civil, please. If you want to see me rank anything else Escape the Night related, let me know. I'm planning on definitely ranking the characters, the episodes, maybe some ships. Let me know what you guys would like to see. But with all that being said, my name is TurtleBoi, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. The video is over now. Go home.
Literally, my life is